Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about custom contoured seating. And in particular, we're going to focus on how that process works in practice and maybe some opportunities for how we could improve and speed up some of the steps in the process to provide a more responsive service. When I think back over the last 25 to 30 years, on the whole, this field hasn't changed dramatically, although there are two really important recent innovations that are worth considering when we look at how custom contoured seating is provided at present. The first of those two is the ability to take the shape and scan it with a simple technology like a cell phone, which enables you to define the shape and make modifications to the shape prior to manufacturing. The second innovation is the ability to do 3D printing. So once you have the shape contour digitized, it's possible to feed that information to a 3D printer and then print out a large seating system, such as a cushion or a back for a wheelchair. So these are exciting advances that have occurred, but there are some other steps in the process that really need to be addressed as well. And this video is really going to concentrate on those steps. I'm really pleased to meet with Arnie Andres, who is going to tell us a little bit about the user experience when it comes to custom contoured seating. Why is custom contoured seating important? What difference does it make to people's lives?
Oh my goodness. I was complaining of pressure sensitivity on my pelvis and my back. Now that I'm using a power chair, I can take the bus by myself. I can take the train. I'm also taking my graduate studies here at the university. Mm-hmm. So it helps me do a lot of things comfortably.
One of the main factors that comes to mind in order to explore expediting the fabrication and delivery of a product is a person who has pressure injuries to their tailbone and their sitting bones. In a situation like that, a person cannot sit comfortably for any length of time. So we here at the Glenrose see folks from central Alberta all the way up to the Northwest Territories, and we see clients who, for various reasons, commercial off-the-shelf seating does not actually work. We conduct assessments with the clients where we're looking at their position in their current wheelchair. We take their measurements. We look at what's happening with their hips and their spine, and we do their range of motion. And then based on our findings, we work with the technicians and ask them to create customized seating products from scratch that actually match the contours of the client so that the client can then be functional in their environment, in their wheelchair, but also be comfortable. It would be very nice for us to have a system here where we can have more objective data collection in terms of precisely what's happening with a person's physiological shape and be able to capture that information so that it can be translated between technicians, between clinicians and technicians, and offer some evidence-based practice to what it is that we're doing here. Then what we do is we communicate with the technicians to move ahead with the fabrication process based on the action plan that was created at the time of the assessment. The products, depending on circumstance, are either handcrafted, as I mentioned here at the Glenrose, or they are fabricated offsite, sometimes even out of the country at a different factory, and then shipped back to the vendor.
When we bring the client into the clinic and do the initial assessment, if it's determined that we need to go to a custom molded type seat, then another appointment could be made to do the molding part.
So it's probably a two-stage process.
Yeah, sometimes it is. And in between that, the therapist will do the authorization through Blue Cross so that we can go ahead and get it funded. We might do the mold ahead of time, but we don't do anything with it until we've quoted it, submitted it for approval, and gotten approval back. Then I have to take the iPad. It's a kit that the company has supplied for us to do this process. And the iPad is set up with a camera, and we will take pictures of that system. We'll take pictures of the client in the mold. Once I've done that, then I use the iPad to actually scan the entire molded frame there. And what the scan does is creates a 3D image. Once I've done the scans and all that information, I can send all the files wirelessly to them.
So now the company has got all of the information. Where are they located normally, the companies that you work with?
For RIDE, they are located in Denver, Colorado. PRM, which is Precision Manufacturing, they're in Ohio.
Okay, so this is cross-border.
Cross-border, yes.
Yeah. How long does it take from you submitting that order for you getting the seat back?
Anywhere from about 3 to 5 weeks.
Once they have sent it to you and you receive it, then what is your turnaround time, to bring the client in, work with the OT who's presumably going to be there to confirm that everything is good? How does that part of the process work?
That part of the process is actually the more difficult piece. When we get the product in and we tell the clinic that we have it, we're ready to book an appointment for fitting, that could be slow depending on their availability. If they have any room in their schedule to fit this person in immediately, or if they have to wait for an open space even a month, 2 months down the road.
Right.
So that's the downfall of the current system and how it works.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Ideally, we'd like to be able to say, we have the product, let's bring the person in, and should be able to get them in, within a week, 2 weeks of us receiving it.
Yeah, right.
But that's not happening.
Right, got it. Okay.
And I think part of that is just the volume of clients that are being referred to clinics and the shortfall in the staff in the clinics.
Yeah.
The beauty of custom seating is that because it is made from scratch, it's very easy to adjust. It's very easy to remove contours that are needed to accommodate a person pre-operatively. It's very easy to add pieces of products such as foam to be able to accommodate a person post-operatively.
So when you make those changes, do you have to get approval again, or are you just able to go in there and get it done?
Unfortunately, we have to get approval again. If it's a situation where we need to start from scratch again, and in some cases we do because the surgery has been that successful, then we have to appeal it through Alberta Aids to Daily Living if the new product timeline falls within the funding guidelines and policies that ADL has. If, however, we're just making minor adjustments to the pre-existing seating, then we can move forward with that. However, it needs to be after 1 year that the person already has their system in place.
So really the approval system doesn't necessarily account for these perhaps somewhat unusual circumstances.
That's absolutely right.
So those are some of the highlights that we've heard. But there's one more that we wanted to draw attention to, and that is the situations for patients who live in rural and remote areas. The difficulties they have is to do with either them coming in to be assessed at an urban centre, which may involve hundreds of kilometres of travel, or alternatively sending a clinical team out to them, because invariably the expertise is not found in most of our rural communities where this can be done, in the same way it can be in an urban centre. So part of that opportunity, I think, is that the technology could be designed in such a way that the assessment could be undertaken remotely. And this would mean that we need to do something about the way we capture the shape, the way we form that beanbag that you saw in the video around the person, and then make sure that that shape is optimal for the corrective seating that we're looking for the person. Maybe one of the ways that could be done would be to be able to provide a shape measuring system in real time so that the shape can be transmitted to the urban clinician and they could see it, maybe using something like VR goggles, and actually interrogate the shape and make sure that everything about that shape is right in real time while the person is sitting in the chair before we finalize it and then scan it and send it for manufacture. From these different perspectives that we've heard, I think there are some important conclusions that we can draw. the amount of time it takes from first being referred for a seating assessment to actually receiving the final product is extremely long. It's measured in months, many months, before the person receives the final product. I think we looked at some of the possible ways that can be sped up. For example, I think that Rebecca highlighted that some of the administrative processes could be sped up. And I think that Mark pointed out that maybe some of the scheduling issues between the vendor technician team and the clinical team could be sped up, just in terms of being able to find times and maybe use times more efficiently. Most of these systems have to be purchased outside of Canada, and that adds an extra complexity to the process. Although we can send the data for the shape by electronic means, the actual product itself has got to be delivered using conventional transportation systems. And that introduces complications such as delays, customs, and numerous other factors that have to be taken into account. So it would be advantageous if we could come up with a system that could be fabricated more locally, so that maybe fabrication and delivery are co-located rather than separated by literally thousands of kilometers. So lots of opportunity for innovation. I think some really compelling reasons for innovation. Some of that innovation could be technological innovation, and some of it could be systems change. I think in closing, I think we would just like to emphasize the importance that we do that. It's a relatively straightforward process to manufacture now very nice custom contoured seating systems, but the capturing of the shape and the positioning of the person is where the particular expertise needs to be located now. And we're hoping that as we go forward, some of those new advances could be put in place.